special cold to it.
Yeah.
It's like Buffalo's got its own special cold. If you've ever been up
Exactly.
around
Talking about
Buffalo.
cold, we're going to have some cold weather this weekend on Thursday. I think a lot of games are going to be moved to Thursday. But this is Jim West and Del Ross with Talking Preps OT. I got it right this time. I'm sure you can't see this, but I actually had to write it down here. OT, because I just want to say plus. I just want to say plus.
So we had no sound with that. So yeah, I think the problem is the moisture and the cold, and I guess in some parts of the state they're thinking about there might be snow. So
like even my area, they're talking about the
yeah,
mixture. So we'll see.
Hickory
I
is
think it's going to be more water or more rain than anything else, though.
well. I
shouldn't have an accumulation where I live.
Yeah, my understanding is Hickory moved their game. So
yeah, quite a few games. We'll catch up on that a little bit. Well, I guess, Dale, we got a special guest with us today. I was going to say, let's bring in our guest, Cameron. Cameron, what's up, brother?
Hi, guys. Jim, Dale, thanks for having me.
Hey, I was doing a little pitch for Western Pennsylvania. You know, I like Pittsburgh. That's one of my favorite places. Actually, it's my favorite place in Pennsylvania. But welcome aboard. I'm glad you could join us.
Thank you.
So you're over at Pittsburgh. You're how long you been with at Northwood?
Oh goodness, I've been at Northwood in some capacity since 2009. So I'm not very good at math. What's about 16 years? I started as
16 years.
Yeah. Okay,
so you were there right the last few years that my cousin Bill was the head football coach over there.
I was the girls basketball coach when Coach Hall was coaching football, and Coach Hall is the biggest supporter of Northwood High School athletics. I love the man, and we love him here in Pittsburgh.
No, he's a lovable guy. He's a great fella.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're a basketball guy?
I was, yes, sir. Yeah, coached high school girls basketball for 12 years.
Ah.
And then got into the athletic director world.
You play basketball?
I played until my freshman, and like many athletes that I try to talk to today, I thought I was going to be a baseball star. So after my freshman year, I specialized. And you know what, gentlemen? You can tell I didn't make it to the majors, and here I am. So I have a lot of regrets in my high school career that I try to talk kids out of because of my mistake. But I love the game of basketball. Part of the reasons why I moved here, we were talking earlier, I'm from Western Pennsylvania, a small town called Sharon, which is about 60 miles north of Pittsburgh. But one of the biggest reasons I moved down here was I grew up a Carolina fan, watching Dean Smith's Tar Heels, and I fell in love with that baby blue. I came down here at 14, went to Coach Smith's basketball camp, and I went home, told my parents I'm moving there one day, and I followed through. Here I am.
Well, you know that specializing you mentioned in my time, so I'm a bit older than you are.
Yeah.
It was very common for athletes to play 3 sports, and recruiters, and we'll just speak about football, the first major sport in a school season. So football recruiters encouraged athletes to play multiple sports, encouraged them to play. And if they played 3 sports, that was in their mind great, because I guess that keyed into them that they really had an athlete, one that they could look at, and maybe a committed player. Now, this specialization wasn't just at your age, or maybe your age started this specialization.
Yeah, maybe it did. Yeah, unfortunately, it's my fault.
Yeah.
So you were a baseball player. What position did you play in baseball?
So I was a catcher, and then went to college, was catching, and when you're the third catcher and you can't make the field, you try and find a way to get on the field. And I had a knuckleball. So I approached my coach. Hey, coach, let me pitch. I got the knuckleball. And the last 2 years of my college career, threw the knuckleball around, was average, fairly successful, but got me on the field and had a blast. Oh. Bethany College. Shout out to Bethany.
You're here.
Yeah, shout out to Bethany College in West Virginia, Bethany Bison.
So you're a right-hander then?
Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah. I got you.
Right-hander.
Okay, I'm like the token lefty, I think, on this in our group. So, Dale, you're a right-hander, I'm sure.
I'm a right-hander. I tried, I was a catcher as well. They tried going up to Pony League. They tried to put it shortstop, and that didn't work out for me. I did pitch a little bit, but my father was an exceptional submarine pitcher. And I tried to do that, and that is just one of the worst things for your elbow that I think could ever be done. So pitching wasn't my thing either.
Exactly. Well, I know we got a lot of things we want to ask about to Cameron. Want to ask you about your about the proposal.
Sure.
And just kind of get your thoughts. Maybe you can talk a little bit about what we're looking at with the proposal.
Yeah, so I guess I'll start from the beginning and kind of why I felt the need to submit this to the High School Athletic Association. I just mentioned I grew up in Pennsylvania. I grew up playing high school athletics, and co-ops were used in the PIAA, which is the state association. They still continue to use it today. And as an athletic director in 2021, we opened a new school in Chatham County, Seaforth High School. And Seaforth pulled from the student body that was at Northwood High School. So prior to Seaforth opening, we had 1,467 kids. Currently, we have 621 kids. So there's the struggles of opening a new school, but there's also the struggles that we faced at Northwood of losing kids while trying to maintain what we had already established, which was numerous sports. We had girls lacrosse, boys lacrosse, all the spring sports, soccer, baseballs you can imagine. So around that time, I started noticing that, especially with our girls lacrosse program, we were struggling to possibly field a team. We also dropped into another classification when I appealed. So we went from a 3A to a 2A. And in our conference, I was even noticing my colleagues struggle. In particular, two high schools weren't able to field baseball teams.
Like Chatham Central and Graham and those teams.
Yeah, so I didn't know if it's okay in this to mention those teams.
Sure, please do.
Okay, so it was Graham High School and Cummings High School.
Cummings, okay.
Yeah, so dear friends of mine, the athletic directors there, and it frustrated me to see them not being able to field baseball teams. One had 8, the other had 6. And if you guys are familiar with Burlington, I mean, it's probably a 5 to 10 minute drive. So in my mind, I'm going, if we had co-ops here in North Carolina and Pennsylvania, of course, you would think those two schools in the same school district would work together. And instead of both high schools not having a baseball team, they could combine and form one baseball team, and it would give those kids an opportunity to play the sport that they love. The other piece of that is what you see a lot of times when student athletes are unable to play a sport, they find something else to do. So in terms of the long-term goal of bringing that sport back to those schools, I imagine it's going to be more and more difficult when you're not offering it. So that kind of got the ball rolling in my head, what I was seeing at my school, what I was seeing with colleagues at other schools. And gentlemen, I've been looking at this for about 1.5 years now. I approached my school district and my fellow athletic directors trying to get us to submit the proposal together as a school district. Thought that would be the right thing to do, the right way to do it. It was decided that wasn't going to be pursued. And so, I go back to the drawing board and I submitted it myself with the help of Jerry Talley, who's our conference president. I talked to him a lot about it. He's in support of it. Submitted it, watched with a lot of intrigue on the live broadcast, and honestly was disappointed in the outcome of it. And part of me being here tonight is I don't want to stop the conversation. I want to keep having this conversation. I think that schools would benefit from this. Most importantly, kids would benefit from this. It would give them opportunity when there's not one provided. So, yeah, I go ahead.
I was going to say, in Chatham County, you got 4 high schools, if I remember right. You have C4, your biggest one, about 1,100 or so, 1,200 ADM. And then it's probably Jordan Matthews around 800. And then it's Northwood. And then you have Chatham Central is probably, 350, 375.
Chatham Central on 350. Northwood 621 currently, if you go by the ADMs. Jordan Matthews around 900, and Seaforth, if you look at the ADM submitted, I think I looked this morning, it was like 1123. But those have obviously fluctuated a little bit.
So that could really help with Chatham Central is one thing I'm thinking about, some of the students that may want to, because I know, I mean, it's hard to get athletic teams for our school that small. But also with Jordan Matthews, I mean, I've seen their football numbers over this year. They actually had a pretty good year, but a lot of years they don't have more than like 30 kids. And I'm talking about freshmen through seniors over there.
Yeah, Coach Kermit over there has done a really good job. He's actually improved the numbers a lot at Jordan Matthews. He's doing a good job. I do know our friends at Chatham Central, they're still around the 25 range for football. And anybody who's a football coach or a football fan knows that that's really hard to get through a whole football season with 25 kids, with the demand of the sport. And so, yeah, I mean, you would like to think if there was an opportunity for a team like Chatham Central, football-wise, that they may look to go into a cooperative agreement if they were available with another high school to help that.
So first, let me ask you why it failed at your LEA level, and let's ask that question first. Why did you feel like you didn't get the support within your own?
Complete transparency. I was never given a reason, and I didn't ask.
Okay. Do you have a sense of why you feel that? So what I'm trying to do is, as I was telling Langston before we came on, is I like this idea a lot, and I would like to find out how we can advocate for this from this point going forward, so that we might be able to spread an understanding of it and get more support. But it's good to understand maybe why people might have been resistive to it. Did you get any kind of feedback from even external sources that may have told you this?
No, sir. Dale, when I talk to people about this, a lot of the people that I speak to, especially if they're born and raised in North Carolina, their career has been in North Carolina, they don't know what a co-op is. They've never heard of it until my conversation. So I think there's fear when you don't know about a particular program. When you don't know about something, or you haven't taken the time to research it, it could be scary to you. Honestly, I think that some people are looking at this like it's the boogeyman, and they want to stay completely away from it. But having lived in it, having friends who have coached in a cooperative football program, I talk to them, and there's benefits. You can look on the National Federation website, and there's articles on co-ops and how they have saved programs. There's an article in 2016 that speaks to this. And the first co-op in this article is dated 1990 in the state of Iowa. So that's, again, I'm not going to math, 35 years. And the state of Iowa continues to have co-ops in place. So if it wasn't successful, or if there were issues, and they would have terminated it. And I think it's work. Like when we might get into this, but like there's going to have to be adjustments if people were to go into a co-op with ADMs and classification, and things would have to change, and agreements would have to be made between schools and school districts, and local LEAs would have to approve of it. And that's work on our part, district leaders, school leaders, NCHSAA. I don't know if that's what's turning them off, but we're here to help student athletes. We're here to do what's best for them. And I'm okay with more work or extra work if it's going to benefit them. And I promise you, if we brought this to the state, there's no doubt in my mind it would benefit so much.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I think Cameron went out just for a second.
All right. So I'll tell you why I think the number one problem is it actually was brought up when Jim made his comment about it being able to help out a particular program. Uh, my view on the this kind of proposal should be implemented when a school is unable to field a team, not that they have a team and they needed to have more players. I
Right.
watched a high school team here in Charlotte field a varsity of 19 players that ended up going down to 16 by the end of the season, and they played in the top classification here in Charlotte, or in the state at the time. So they were committed to play, but there has to become a point, and in theory, that really could have been a point that you just say, "We can't field a team." So
Safety.
you've got 16 players here that wanna play, but we're not gonna field a team. So let those players go somewhere. We discussed this subject Sunday, and that concern came up that you could build super teams, and that's not the intent of your proposal.
No.
No, sir.
So that's the
Co-ops
first thing you need to address, I think, is that.
co-ops are only supposed to be I guess, started when, from what you just said, when teams are when one team is unable to field a team. That's the only reason. Um, it in Pennsylvania, you don't see teams combining to create super teams, and there's oversight with that. It's not that Dale, I would call you and say, hey, let's do a co-op, and we submit the paperwork, and would automatically be approved, right? The schools have to show data. If it was my lacrosse team that I'm worried about, and if we were, I hope we don't get to that point, before I'm able to field a women's lacrosse team, it would have to be where I visit the board, just like I did a few years ago when we asked to drop from a 3A to a 2A. We had to present to the board. We had to justify our reasoning for the enrollment drop and to move down a classification. I would envision the same thing would happen if we allowed co-ops, where you have to provide data, you have to justify your reasoning, you have to show that you've had an issue fielding a team, and that long-term success would be benefited by joining a co-op with another school that would agree to it. But if you look at other states, they're not being used for super teams. You can look for articles, you can call state associations. That's not what's occurring. I get that fear, but if we were to have oversight, and maybe I wasn't clear in that. Maybe I needed to do more information in my proposal. That's what threw them off. But honestly, it's the first time I've ever done it, and I imagined that if they wanted to move forward with it, that since they were the ones who would provide the oversight, that they would come up with the eligibility requirements for a co-op or the procedure. But I would be glad to provide that. I would just use what other states are already using in order to get this started.
So why can't an LEA do this? In my mind, and I don't know where I'm wrong, but I don't see that this requires the NCHSAA's approval.
Yeah.
As much as it just needs an LEA to say we're going to do this, because here in Charlotte we have schools or half schools. We have situations where kids are able to it's not a rampant thing, but where you may take something at one school and another at another school.
Yeah.
We don't have any of this with sports, but if the LEA itself says we're going to allow this with our schools, and we're going to monitor this and manage it so that it meets the proposal. I'm just not. If you can explain to me, why does this have to reach to the NCHSAA and not be an LEA thing?
Yeah, I'd love to explain that, because it's Rule 2.1.2, where it says, and under that rule, letter C, no membership entity may use students of two or more of its regularly constituted high schools, which offer an athletic program, to form in their quotes, a composite team. They use the term composite team for what other states use as a cooperative team, cooperative program. So it's their rule that doesn't allow a local LEA to say, hey, and our friends in Burlington at Cummings and Graham, my understanding was they would have loved to have done that. That rule prohibits those kids from participating in baseball games with other membership schools. However, can I throw this in? NCDPI does allow composite programs for middle schools. Chatham County uses that for baseball teams in our middle school. And may I add, we've had great success with it.
See, I'm all for this, to be honest with you. I think it's.
I'm frustrated, and I hope I don't mean to. I'm not trying to be ugly here, but I have a hard time understanding everyone else's perception that this is not a good thing for kids. I mean, really.
Well, that's the thing about it. It's all about. It should be the focus should always be on the kids. It shouldn't be on anything else. And I don't think this rule. I know this rule is not intended, or what you're suggesting is not intended for some type of competitive advantage. It's more about just giving the kids a chance to compete, on the high school level.
Yeah. And I was okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying that's kind of my big thing on this, Cameron, is as a coach, and I was telling the guys this on Sunday night, like we're normally conditioned, like think about, whatever the situation, whatever the decision that is that comes up, what's the best thing that could happen if I do this? What's the worst thing that could happen if I do this? And, what I said on Sunday night was that, like, I can't think of what's a worst thing that could happen. Obviously we could sit here and talk about the benefits of it all day, but like for the life of me, I can't think of like, what's the worst thing that happens if we do this? Like, what kind of things have you heard? Like, have you heard anything about, well, this isn't going to happen. This isn't, you should probably give up this fight. Like what are the detractors? What's the negative here?
I mean, I guess the detractions from a coach perspective, if you're the coach of a team that's being approached by another school to take on members of another team that aren't able to field a team, there are ADM, ramifications from that. In states that have this in place, you have to take either the full enrollment, or some states use half of the enrollment. If I can just speak about Pennsylvania, because that's what I'm most familiar with, when co-ops were agreed upon, schools would have to use both enrollments to determine classifications. What was happening was the schools being approached by teams that were struggling to field teams were deterred from taking them on because of the classification ramifications, right? I mean, let's take Northwood High School, for instance. If we were to join Jordan Matthews in football, and we took both enrollments, that would leave us at 1,500 kids. I'm off the top of my head, I think that's a 6A or 7A school. Jordan Matthews would say, why in the world am I going to take on Northwood's kids and play 7A football from a 4A, right? So in Pennsylvania, they've taken half of the student enrollment. If you gave me the keys to this in the state of North Carolina, I would go to half of the enrollment, because it wouldn't deter as many programs from taking them on. So as a coach being approached, there's that ramification that you have to consider. And, if you're going to have a good team, coach, I mean, you might say, you know what, this isn't good for our program. And that's the beauty of a co-op. It's kind of like a marriage. It's not an arranged marriage. Both parties have to agree to it. Both parties have to like what it does for both of their programs, right? In some cases, somebody might get, the better end of the deal than others. In my house, it'd be like my wife, in most cases, the better end of it. But, there's that piece. There's, again, the co-ops, the schools agree upon, it's a contract. Who's going to handle the costs of it? Is it going to be jointly, funded? Is one school going to handle all the costs? How's the revenue going to be generated? There's those pieces. How are we going to get the kids from school A that don't have the program to school B? Are we busing? Is it up to the kids to get their own transportation? It's not clean. There's things to work out, But in the end, it's been working. I've shared with Langston, I've shared with other people that I've reached out to hope to continue conversation, an article from 2021 in my local Sharon Herald in Sharon, Pennsylvania. West Middlesex, Sharpsville high schools, two former rivals, are now a co-op. It wasn't just the football team that benefited. Think about this, guys. If there was no football at West Middlesex, the band wouldn't play. The cheerleaders wouldn't cheer. There wouldn't be the homecoming court. By combining, they were able to do this. And Sharpsville and West Middlesex have worked it out. Sharpsville hosts 3 home games. West Middlesex hosts 2. Think about that. At Sharpsville, you get to have your senior night. You get to have a homecoming game. The band's actually combined, and the cheerleaders combined, I need to add. What's there not to like about that? And kudos to Sharpsville. Sharpsville had enough kids. They were iffy. They were around the 30 range. And they took on Sharpsville's, 15 to 20 kids. They didn't have to take on West Middlesex program, but they did. And that was really, I give props to Sharpsville because they didn't have to do that, but they saw the benefits of it as well.
So you say that, and it rightly so, that an ADM change will have to be made, be it half or full. So does that just apply to the sport that is co-opted?
Correct.
Because here in Charlotte, we have trouble at a number of schools with Olympic sports and having enough kids, and we have an uprising of popularity in lacrosse and in rugby, and not every school can field these teams. They don't have coaches for it, or they don't have enough interest in players, whatever the purpose may be.
Demographics are very different in Charlotte Metro, right?
Right. So if it's just the sport that's impacted, let's say that we combine to form a lacrosse team, and that doesn't impact the football team schedule, because here you could create a massive ADM that somebody might like being in 6A or
Correct.
7A and not want to step up to the big boy 8A league. Okay, right. So was that in your proposal, how the ADMs would be handled?
I put in the proposal, just like what I said earlier, I think it was like the last piece of my proposal, and I gave the example that states who have this in place have either used full enrollment or half enrollment. Okay. Again, if I didn't realize, maybe I should have told them what I think should happen. I would have said it should be half enrollment. That's what I would like.
Enrollment, I agree with you.
But going back to what you asked about sports, it would be sports specific. So if there's a school in Charlotte that went into girls lacrosse with another school, their ADM for that would just be for girls lacrosse. Okay. And I haven't mentioned, I don't know if you guys caught this either, co-ops in every state that it's instituted, it has to be a no-cut sport. Because you got to think about this. Again, I'll use Northwood and Jordan Matthews. If it wasn't a no-cut sport, but we combined, and let's say Northwood kids were going to Jordan Matthews to play basketball, and Jordan Matthews kids got cut, right? That would cause an uproar. So you don't see co-ops typically in sports that have cuts, baseball, basketball, but they could happen. You see them more with sports like football. You'll see them with wrestling. You could see it possibly in Michigan. It's hockey. In Michigan, sometimes 3 schools come together to form it. My hometown.
We do have a co-op in North Carolina among the independent schools. Cannon School and Concord Academy have done this. Done a co-op for football. So,
correct, they have, and so it's being done. And I don't know if you guys know, a year or 2 ago, maybe I'm a little off, there was a state representative out of Alamance County that submitted a bill in regards to co-ops and allowing student athletes when the programs weren't available to go to other schools. And her proposal, which I don't agree with, it was a student in this case could be at a private school, not a member of the High School Athletic Association, but could go to their home school who is in the association and play. And it also allowed homeschool kids. And so that's where that got me. And the reason for me is, just different requirements that those schools have in terms of athletic, academic eligibility that don't align with our standards with the High School Athletic Association. So that would be a no-go for me. So again, my proposal, if it was pursued, I think stays on top of that before anybody else or anybody at the state level who really isn't in the with us can start making those types of decisions.
I remember that proposal because I think we even discussed it on the show. And I think it was mainly driven for homeschool, but included public. But
Correct.
as I remember the focus of
And private.
conversation, it was
And private.
private, yeah, and private. But it seemed like it was geared or it was inspired for homeschool kids, but then included private. And I'm not a fan of either. I'm like Coach Hales. I can't think of any negatives if it's implemented under the guidelines it seems you want. It allows kids to participate. I'm sorry, Hales.
No, that's cool. 2 questions. Number one, where you keep reference, and because I'm from Pennsylvania, where in Pennsylvania are you from?
I'm from Sharon, which is 60 miles north of Pittsburgh. On the
yeah, man. Quaker Steak and Lube, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man. I've been to that one. I used to Kent State, right? I used to drive through there all the time.
Kent Reed, Kent Wright, Kent State. Yep.
That's right, man. That's right. My kids love that saying.
Yeah. Lon Mazaris, I went to school with him. His father was part owner. We ate wings. Every birthday Lon had, we had wings. It was great. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. One of my first weeks at Kent State, I went to a friend's house. He went to Liberty High School.
Yeah.
Which is right there across the bridge, right? Yeah. So, yeah, that's where we went. He's the principal up there now.
You can eat wing night, probably.
Oh, absolutely. But so the other question, though, like what kind of time frame are we looking like here? Is this something you think? I mean, I think we're all, generally speaking, like as coaches, administrators, I think we're all generally optimists, but like realistically, like what are you thinking here, like time frame wise?
So my proposal, if it was approved by the state and they voted on it, my proposal was for it to start during the 2026-27 school year because, there's a reason for that, just like every 2 years after realignment, there's opportunities for schools who've had changes in enrollment to appeal once again, just like we did at Northwood a few years ago. And that would have to be done at that time as well, because if you think about it, when schools are appealing due to enrollment numbers to change classifications and they're doing all that work at the state level, this is the ideal time when you bring in those teams that want to do a co-op. And if those are approved, you can do all the work at the same time, right? So that would also give them a year to plan, to coordinate, to get the word out, to get policy out, to have more conversations with stakeholders, with questionings. But there, yeah, it was decided.
No, and that's the thing, and I hate it that it makes so much sense. And I know there's like logistical things involved, but like those are details. Like we deal with details all the time. Like like you brought up like the transportation issue and things like that. Like I think that's the easy stuff to figure out.
Well, that's not the state's issue. That's the schools work it out, right?
Right.
I mean, the state's just giving you permission to pursue it, and all the details are worked out at the local level.
It seems like you could get a lot of the small 1A, 2A, and 3A schools to jump on board across the state. Yeah, I was thinking back in Stanley County when I was growing up. 2 of the high schools didn't have golf teams at all.
Correct.
I mean, I know like swimming is a new sport. I mean, back when I was at North Stanley, we didn't have swimming. So
yeah, I mean, this typically is a smaller school program. I mean, personally for me, I did want to say that as I was watching with a little frustration, I was listening to the comments, and I think one of the board members mentioned, well, you can have 2 5A schools go and they'd be bigger than an 8A. And I just wanted to reach through the screen. No, first off,
it's not going to be a 5A.
Schools with 1,000 more kids typically aren't going to be pursuing this.
Second, not in football.
Correct.
But they might in Olympic sports.
Yes, absolutely. And second, I did a little research after that comment. The two largest 5A schools are Person High School and Hickory High School. If you combine those enrollments, like they said, that's 2,400 kids. That is, there's 19 8A schools that have an enrollment larger than 2,400. Right. So if you're going to say things like that, and that's why I don't want to have your facts right. So, it's just frustrating. So it goes back to, for me, just not knowing about this. And instead of taking the time to look further into it or to listen, I know my proposal, if you guys saw it, it was lengthy. I told you I've been working on it for a year and a half. They brought up ADMs used. I put that in the proposal. They talked about the broadness of it. And that's what they had concerns about. I mean, what do you mean by the broadness of it? The broadness of it is that all schools can benefit. The broadness of it is that every sport that might have an issue can use it. I mean, I don't know why we have to be more specific about that. And then they mentioned the LEA's role. And that's simple. I mean, everyone's in education that was discussing this. We all know that in order to do something, you need approval from your principal, you need approval from your superintendent, and you need approval from your school board. And in every state, those stakeholders are involved in the decision making. So if the association allowed this, there would be steps in place at the local level where schools, once again, come together, form an agreement, principals sign off that it's good, that it's for the right reasons, going back to your super team thing, right? You would think people in leadership are not going to allow that to happen. It's because one team cannot field another and someone's willing to bring them on. And lastly, the superintendent's going to propose it to the school board, and ultimately the school board has to say, yes, we're okay with our schools and our student athletes going into an agreement for this. We'll send it on to the state level. So again, it would be a process, and it wouldn't just be submitting a paper and, oh, yeah, you're good to go. You're free to pursue it. So.
All right. Well, this has been a really good conversation. I appreciate you joining in here, Cameron. And if there's anything we can do to help you out, feel free to reach out to us.
It's like I'll be honest, I don't know who will be watching this. I'm in a tough situation. I'm not trying to sound ugly. I hope that you guys and everyone else who's watching can see my passion.
Oh, I'm with you. I'm 100% with you on this.
And I
share this with you.
This is something I truly believe in. I have the student athletes in mind, and not just at Northwood High School in our Chatham County, for this entire state. I mean, I love North Carolina. There's no chance. I've talked a lot about Pennsylvania. I'm not going back.
Me either.
Best decision I made 21 years ago was to come here. I have great respect for the High School Athletic Association and the members. They do an outstanding job. It's not an easy job. But I hope that they will listen, and I hope that I can continue to have conversations with people. And I hope that, if there's board members listening who looked at the proposal, I would love to sit down at the table with them and talk about it, just like we did tonight. And, if nothing else, I would have loved to have been in the room. And I know that's not procedure, but I feel like I could have put a lot of their questions and their concerns at ease if I was in the room with them. And I would welcome the opportunity to talk to any of those individuals, talk more about it. I don't want to give it up. I mean, I really don't. I want to continue for them to think about this. I think it would benefit the state, our kids, most importantly, and it would save programs, and it would also help those programs long-term come back to levels where they can sustain it on their own at their home school.
Watch last night's Talking Preps, coach versus coach.
Okay.
Because that's where it was discussed. And Coach Hales, I think, was the only one that was like fully on board and maybe recognized how this would work. I sensed from the other guys that they really didn't understand how it would work and some of the fears of mega school, etc.
Well, they're not from the same. They're not from the Keystone Commonwealth. That's the reason why they don't understand that.
But you want to watch that. So it might give you some input.
That'll give me some insight. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I was unaware of this until I reached out to Langston and I saw it, and I'll be sure to check that episode out because I want to hear other people's perspectives so I can help have the conversation once again.
Well, no, because I think of, and I was actually the one I think that brought it up on Sunday, because I think of like the 10 degenerates I grew up with that I'm still in group text with, that like as soon as you present a rule to them, their first thing is how do I get around it?
Absolutely.
You know? So, and unfortunately, there are people like that out there, and I mean, and they're getting more and more of a voice. And so no, like that was like, you know, almost kind of one of my not concerns, because I don't think that's something that ultimately would happen. I mean, because I think like the intent of what you're talking about, it's just, you know, number one, it's pure, and as much as I hate that we're taking purity away from so much of athletics, but like I don't think that would happen where people are trying to create these super teams. But I mean, like that was kind of my thing, was like, you know, like I said, as soon as you think of a rule, somebody says, oh, well, how do I get around it?
Correct. And that's with everything in our handbook, though. And that's why I'm in my position. That's why principals are in their position to get those people in line. And if they're not going to be in line, then we may have to go. Yeah. And so once again, oversight, the association, you know, if Weddington and Ardrey Kell submitted a co-op for football, what are we doing here, right? I mean, no. Okay. I mean, so once again, data, oversight. Yet it's not just I fill out a form and now these two teams are together.
Yeah.
Well, Cameron, we appreciate you joining us tonight.
Appreciate it.
We're gonna talk about some high school football. You're welcome to stay, or about the playoffs. You're welcome to stay. Or I know you're a busy guy, but it's so good to have you on here. And
it's great.
Feel free to come back again, man.
Great meeting you all. Thank you.
And email me.
Thank you, Cameron.
Email you, Dale.
Yes, because and my you can see my X if you're on X. You can DM me, and then we can get some email going, because I do think this needs to be advocated from this point forward to the next time it can be voted on.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, guys. Have a great night.
Thank you, Cameron. Thank you so much. That was Cameron Vernon from Northwood High School in Pittsburgh, which is, if you're familiar with North Carolina, it's about, I'm going to say 20 minutes south of Chapel Hill. So, tell you what, guys, let's go ahead and start looking at the playoffs. We're just going to spend a little bit of time going through the games that are scheduled. Bad weather, obviously, that's coming in. Luckily for 1A, we're not going to have a game until next week.
That's right.
So Robbinsville versus Wilson Prep. We'll beat that probably over the weekend, but that's going to be a pretty good game. I think Robbinsville will be slightly favored. But let's talk about the weather here. You guys are Western people. Starmount Murphy at Murphy. How's that weather going to be?
I haven't checked, but I bet it's not going to be good.
I mean, you remember, like, when we first, you know, our first week of the playoffs, we talked about it. Like I said, it was going to be the Jim Cantori Weather Channel playoffs. You know, the things are going to run, you know, once we get to late November, early December, you got to start heading like west to 77. Things get a little dicey, man. And it's definitely going to rear its head, I think, this weekend for sure. I mean, you look at that Shelby at Lincoln game, those guys are still playing Friday night. And I mean, I shared with the group earlier today, I think Friday we got a high of like 38 with rain.
Yeah, that's going to be a cold, wet game. I think now, the guys told me that Hickory and Crest are playing Thursday night.
Yeah.
I did hear that as well.
The Thursday games are right here listed, and the Fridays on the right.
So,
how about that reading?
Yeah.
So they definitely changed it because of weather.
And I think sometimes with the teams, though, some teams play better in the bad weather than others. I remember one of our colleagues was talking about the Shelby Lincolnton game and how Lincolnton is probably a better bad weather team than most. You know.
Yeah,
I can tell you that. No, yeah. So Lincolnton coach actually told Alan. Alan's apparently in pretty good communication with him, told him that they prefer the weather. That's why they're going to keep it. They're not even considering changing their game because they want the weather. It gives them more of a chance.
I mean, I think like you're in the weather thing is so funny to me because it's such a reflection of like how do you feel about your team? Like plain and simple. Like I know like you go back to like 2012, like we had a team I know like nobody was beating that team. So, like, if we're going into a rain game, I'm like, oh, we're bigger, we're faster, we're stronger. Like,
exactly.
We can handle the elements a little bit better. But then I've had some teams that weren't quite of the same talent level. It's like, well, no, we want to play in the rain because it's going to slow the other team down.
Right.
So it's just a matter of whether, like, you can get the game moved or not.
I gotcha. So Warren and Tarboro, that's on Thursday night. It's going to be hard to beat Tarboro. I think it's going to be. I think Tarboro's going to win by
the Tarboro T, right?
Yeah, the big old T, the straight T. Kinston to James Keenan. That's a 3A matchup. Keenan runs the ball. Kinston goes vertical. That's going to be a pretty good game between two teams with different offensive mindsets. I think defense might be the one that's going to decide who wins that game, though. Both of them have great offenses. I think James Keenan might be a little bit stronger defense.
I think Keenan's playing for a state championship. That's what I think.
And we're going to stick on the Thursday games. West Craven and Reedsville. I mean, Reedsville is a big name. I mean, to me, you're thinking about dynasties. Reedsville is definitely in the top 10 in dynasties in the history of North Carolina. West Craven's got loaded. They're loaded with talent. That's going to be a great game.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know these teams all that well, but I know like some of the top end talent that Reedsville has. Like, you know, when you get down to games like this, and we talked about Sunday night, like how even like things were in terms of like coaching staffs and things like that. Like when you're this deep in the playoffs, like talent is pretty even all the way across the board. And when you have like one or two guys that are just a little bit better than what's on the other side of the field, like that's all you need, you know. And so I mean, I know Reedsville's got, it's the tight end and it's Deontay Neal, I believe, is the other kid, and they're used to being here, you know. So I kind of got to lean Reedsville on that one.
Right.
Let me ask you a question, Coach Hales, along those lines. Your experience in the past, kind of this late in the playoffs, did you find that your really star players, did you find that they amped their games up at these moments?
Yes and no. And I know that's an easy way out of the question, but those guys did every Friday. You know, like those guys did. And like as you're asking the question, like I'm just seeing like Chris Frost's face. You know, like that was the first name that jumped to mind when you said that. Like, but this was a kid that he was like that every Friday night. Like every Friday was the state championship to him. And when you get to this point in the season, like that's typically how all these teams are going to approach every Friday night. Like these aren't teams that, you know, typically play to the level of their competition, so to speak. Like these are guys that are trying to be great. These are teams that are trying to be great every time they get on the field. So no, like I don't think that like, you know, you see kids like trying to do more than, you know, what they're capable of because they're already a good team.
Okay, gotcha.
Going to the 5As, we got both the East and the West are going to be playing tomorrow. And I look at this as like the A game versus the B game. I think the B game's the East. I think the West is going to decide who wins the 5A. I hate to say it this early, but I've been saying that since the beginning of the year. Northside, they beat a Rocky Mount, pretty good Rocky Mount team last week. They're playing at Hunt. Hunt was the number 1 seed. Northside might be the team to beat in this game. I think it's going to be a pretty competitive one, but right now I'm kind of leaning towards Northside.
And that's a good football team. Northside is.
The big game here, Crest and Hickory. Joe Glass is like, oh, please, Jim, pick Crest. I want you to pick Crest. And I'm not going to disappoint. I'm picking Crest to win this game. do not discount a Joe Glass team, though. He is a great coach. He's got got great players. Crest just something. I mean, they've beaten East Lincoln. They've beaten South Point. What else do they need to do? They need to beat Hickory, and I think they can.
Oh,
yeah,
I don't
and
think
this
there's
is
any question. Yeah,
I mean, you look at a game like this, and this is like championship, like, and they talk about like with the NFL, like the best weekend of the year in the NFL is that conference championship weekend. And this is kind of, that weekend here for us in North Carolina, like the AFC NFC championship weekend. And when you look at this game with Crest and Hickory, like I'm getting those vibes of like those 90s like 49ers Packers games with like Favre against Steve Young, and when you include the Cowboys into that too, like these are heavyweights. Like this could very well be a state championship game, not to discredit those teams from the East, but again, this is a heavyweight battle in the semifinal round. And it's going to bring the best out of the coaching staff. It's going to bring the best out of the kids, and that's what's so fun to watch right now too. Is just because you're getting the absolute best that everybody's got.
Yeah, Crest is such a dynamic team, and Hickory's just going to have to, in my opinion, play A-game football here, which you would expect a team of the caliber of Hickory would. But
and I imagine they will play in that game.
They are really going to have to play a top-notch A+ game, is what I'm saying, Jim.
And I think they're going to have some luck. They're going to have some help from Crest too. It's and there's always all kinds of things can happen. It's December 5th, or December 4th. Right, the week right after Thanksgiving. Crazy things can happen on that.
Well, if it's wet, the balls are going to be slippery. I mean, there's a lot that can happen.
It's going to be cold. Definitely going to be cold on Thursday.
Yeah, and you got teenagers making really important decisions.
Yeah,
whose girlfriend broke up with exactly?
Right,
whose girlfriend broke up with the quarterback? Right,
man. I'm telling you now, like that stuff matters. Like that stuff has a huge impact on what's going on Fridays.
Exactly.
Or Thursdays in this case.
Yeah, I agree with Jessica. He is a great coach. He's a better man even. I just think the world of Joe Glass. He's just a dynamic guy. Clayton and Cardinal Gibbons going to the 7A. I think that's going to be a really good game. I just don't know if either one of those teams have anything for the winner of the Weddington and Grimsley game. I hate to sound like that. I am an Eastern guy, and I'm talking a lot more for the West right now, but that Clayton Cardinal Gibbons game, that's going to be a pretty evenly matched game. I think Cardinal Gibbons might be a slight of like maybe just a hair of advantage. So I'm going to say maybe a 3 or 4 point advantage for Cardinal Gibbons, but I don't know. Any thoughts about that, Dale or Brian?
Well, no, go ahead, Dale.
No, you go ahead and I'll finish.
And again, correct me if I'm wrong here, guys, but like Cardinal Gibbons, like they've been here. Like they've been here a bunch of times. Like whether it's been the Eastern semifinals or I'm sorry, the Eastern finals or the state championship game. Whereas Clayton, I mean, this is the Chadwick wave coming in. Like it was year 2, it was year 3. And is it just like this overwhelming force? Like here we come, we're coming to take over the eastern half of the state. Like, so that kind of becomes one of those things. Like, is it better like to have the experience the Cardinal Gibbons and their staff does, like being this late in the North Carolina, now 7A, 8A, 7A playoffs, or Coach Chadwick and just the momentum of this is the first time we've been here, and the excitement and the school get behind you, and because that's and again. Clayton may be here more often than I think, but like I go back to like 2009, like that first state championship run we had, like just like the vibe you had around school and around, for us around Matthews, like it's just different. And like you feel these people just kind of carrying you all day and that whole week. And, that's could be a real important aspect here as well.
All right.
Well, I think there's a valuable point there to what you just said. And as you were saying all that, I'm thinking, could there be a hump here for Clayton?
Mm-hmm.
There certainly should not be for Cardinal Gibbons. That program traditionally has made it to state championships. I I guess one advantage I see for Clayton in that regard is that their head coach experienced those humps here in Charlotte, you know,
Yeah.
getting past Vance Chambers, and also at Marvin Ridge. So maybe that helps them in a new era of can they I mean, they made it to the regionals, so that's a big point.
And he's won a state championship. Where it was up in Maryland, I believe,
Maryland,
right? Like
that's
right.
So yeah, like he's finished the deal before. Like he knows how to close on a season.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think Jim's 3-point margin is probably close to what I think. And Jim, that is if you were to do Massey ratings, power ranking, game, calculation of score, he applied 3 points to home field. And this is at home field. So I don't know if you did that intentionally or unintentionally, but your margin covers that of Cardinal Gibbons playing at home. In the end, a fantastic ball game, I think.
I think it's going to be a great game. And let's talk about the big one next tomorrow. Yeah. Gosh, it's tomorrow. Weddington and Grimsley. And, everybody talks about Grimsley. We were talking about Independence. We talk about Morrisville. In Weddington, I know how Andy Capone feels. I mean, he's like, what else can I do to have people talk about my program? I like Weddington in this game. I might be the only person that does, but I'm going to take Weddington in a close one over Grimsley.
Yeah, I think when it comes down to it, and the one thing I love about Coach Capone, because this, and not just this time of year, but it's every Friday, but like it's. And I talk to our kids, like, especially the captains before I'd send them out on Friday and just remind them, like, whatever happens out there, you got to act like it's exactly what you expected to happen. Like, we don't want to get too high. We don't want to get too low. That's Coach Capone. Like, he doesn't, I've never seen him get too high. I've seen him get a little upset with referees before, but no, like just that calm demeanor. And that's, what's going to be required. So I think it's a matter of, number one, who's a more complete team, and, we know about the Weddington defense. Everybody talks about their front seven on defense, but, what's their O-line doing? What's their backfield doing on offense? And, I got to see some film on them this year and, just they have fantastic schemes and they're going to be tough to prepare for. So then like the other part then is like, where's those little things going to come in? Like, the turnover here or, going for a fourth down and you have a kid jump off sides, like the changes of possession. Like, I think like this game is going to be that close where, and again, you talk to your team about there's like one or two plays every game that determines the outcome and you don't know when they're going to happen. And it might be the kickoff return in the first quarter. It may be a false start in the second quarter. You don't know when that play is going to happen. And that, I think, is just going to be so much about this Weddington Grimsley game. Like, there's going to be a play or two that happens that once this game's over, we look back and say, oh, you remember when they had 12 guys on the field on that play and it was a punt, they got a first down and went in and scored? Like, something like that is going to happen in one of these games.
Something that has been true with Weddington since my early knowledge of Carson when he was coaching there is that the Weddington program across all of those decades has a couple of things that is consistent. One is that their players all have what I would what I consider to be extreme football IQ. They grow up together. They play youth football together. Their youth football in Union County and there where Weddington plays is phenomenal. I'm sure you're aware of that. So you've got kids that are smart and thus they know their positions. They know what they can do. They can actually be a little slower, but because they know how to play and what they need to do, they find ways to make up for that. Now, that's not saying they're slow because the other two things that have been consistent with Weddington, one is, and I don't know why, but I've always considered them to be one of the hardest hitting football teams.
Oh, I agree with that. Ever since that 2016 battle against Eastern Guilford, when you're talking about repetition, when you do the thing over and over and over again, it in real time it looks slower. At least that's what the athletes have told me in the past. You anticipate it, you've seen it, and you know how to react to it a lot faster.
Well, you can tell that they. Oh, go ahead, Coach Hales. I'll let you.
I think the big thing that comes with that, and you're talking about how physical they are. The physicality is a result of confidence. That willingness to pull the trigger, like to go for the big hit, to go for the knockout blow, to go for the pancake. That comes from a confidence, and I know I can do this. And because I've done it, I've been coached to do it. And that goes back to the other point that you made about the youth program they have out there in Union County. Once they got that thing up and running, like it's been Katie bar the door out of Weddington. Like they've been great. And, and that's what we've all talked about this on the show and, the quote unquote transfer portal that's out there. But that's why I think you see Weddington staying so good so consistently is because they have these kids being brought up the same way, much the same way like Charlotte Catholic has always been so good because they're getting fed by the same middle school. Whereas now, and I hate to say it, like the name of the game has almost become about not who could develop teams, but who could acquire the most talent. And you still see these guys in Union County, like you saw the year Sun Valley had, and Weddington, where they continue to develop talent because they know the kids they're getting from the time the kids are in like sixth grade or, they're seeing them, play on their Saturday afternoons out at, Optimus Park or wherever they're playing. And, I think that you're able to overcome a lot of things that way when you see, that some of the dynamic 4- and 5-star athletes at Grimsley. Well, these Weddington kids have been playing together, since the time they were 6 years old. So there's so much, especially in the game of football, there's so much to that bind and that relationship you have with the guy next to you that allows you to play a little bit harder. And like you said, be more physical because you're more confident, because the guy next to you that much better is going to do what he's supposed to do.
Yeah. So is Jim's pick a bad pick? As I went through to consider my pick, I'm expecting a close game. I'm expecting Weddington to technically play a good football game. I give Grimsley credit for the athleticism that they have going in combination with a pretty physical team themselves. And I hate to say in games like that, or I think in games like that, when you have a player like Grimsley now has back at quarterback, that can be a player that maybe can bring it over the top for you. Now, I don't think this counts Weddington out at all in winning this game, Jim. So your pick's it's not like I'm not thinking Grimsley's going to win this game by 21 points. I think Grimsley's going to have to play. If Grimsley doesn't play a good football game, and they're sound, but there's just a different soundness to the way Weddington plays. They just don't tend to beat themselves. You do have to beat them, and you can beat them, obviously. Myers Park beat them. But I think it'll be a close game.
I agree. Let's go on to the Friday games. We already talked a little bit about the Starmount Murphy game. I'm going to take Murphy probably by about 7 to 10 points. I think Murphy definitely has that home field advantage. I know Starmount's just like between I want to say kind of the glorified foothills of Yadkin County. But I'm going to take Murphy in that game.
Yeah.
Same here. I think that's good. Starmount can win this game.
Now, this next game, Shelby at Lincolnton, this kind of reminds me of Jeff Probst. Going on Survivor, you get these guys that have been eating up the termites and wood chips, and snails and anything else they can find. And here comes Jeff with his big old hot dog with all the trimmings. He eats about half of it and just throws the other half on the ground. And all the people are just like staring at that half-eaten, uneaten hot dog. And what I was saying that is I think Lincolnton is a hungry team. I know they're a hungry team. They want to go to the next step. Shelby may not be as hungry because they go. Seems like every other year they go into a state championship game. When I see Lincolnton, I think of a hungry team. They've already beaten Shelby once this year. The bad weather is definitely on their sides, or at least in the coach's mind. That being said, I'm still going to pick Shelby to win this game in a close one. Insane thoughts?
No, see, I'm picking Shelby at 2, but as the day has worn on today, I question my pick more. I hate when this happens to me, but I pick Shelby because I think their record, and the record, not the win-loss record, but the record of the games they've played, adversity that they face, how they've built, how their team has just gotten stronger. That's why I picked them. I felt like they may have the momentum here. But Jim, here I am now. If I were to send my picks back in, I might pick Lincolnton.
Gotcha.
I mean, like I'm looking at this, and like you said, like Lincolnton already beat Shelby earlier this year, correct?
Mm-hmm.
That's correct.
And I think so. Like when you're looking at that, like it's like it's Shelby. Like it's every year we're winning state championships. Every other year we're winning the state championships. Like I know, like even coming up, going against some of those early independence teams, like, and then the teams we had, like you get on the field sometimes with the team, you're already down 7-0, or you're already up 7-0, just because of what your uniform looks like, because they know who you are. I think Shelby, and it's not. I'm not throwing shade to Shelby at all because of when I say this, but like they have that effect on a lot of teams too. Like we're Shelby, we're going to do the dog pile, we're the Golden Lion, and that's worth points. Like I don't care what you say, like that matters. Well, Lincolnton already beat them, so like now you go to the thing about it's hard to beat a good team twice in the same year. Yeah, of course it is, because it's a good team. Like it's easy to beat a bad team twice in the same year. So I mean, it's going to be hard, regardless. But I think Lincolnton is over that. I guess you call it a fear factor, since we're talking about cheesy reality shows with Survivor. We'll go fear factor, where you don't have that Shelby fear factor. Like we've already been on the field and we've already beat them. Now we're at home. The weather's going to be awful. This plays right into what we want to do. Like bring it on. Let's go. So I think in this case, I'm probably going to go with Lincolnton.
Gotcha.
Plus, I may be going to Lincolnton for this game.
Yeah, I'll definitely be there,
man. It's good for protection. I agree with you,
Coach Hales. This is also there's a lot of history between these two programs too. So
is that right?
They're two. They were in the same conference back in the NCHSAA years.
Exactly. So there's a lot to go. There's a lot of reason to be at this game, Coach. Besides it potentially just being a great game, the atmosphere of it will be great between the two programs. You'll enjoy it.
Well, and that's one thing, that it's kind of the curse that goes along with the blessing of being a coach is you don't get to see a lot of these places. Like I've always wanted to go to a game at Lincolnton. I've always wanted to go to a game at Maiden. Like, fortunately, I've been to a bunch of games at Richmond, and usually they went pretty well. But like, just being able to go to some of these smaller communities, and it's going to be cold and it's going to be wet, but I don't know, man. I may suck it up and make the drive up there on Friday.
I remember I'm going to say probably 15, 12, or maybe 12, 13 years ago, I told you just beat Richmond, scored all kinds of points. I looked back at it and found out that no other team had ever scored as many points against Richmond as you did that night. So you're right. Always think about Butler's success against Richmond.
Listen, I could sit right now, like I could do it like an hour, like oral documentary about that game for you guys right now, like because that game was everything for us. I mean, we were down. There's 8 minutes to go. We were down 31-17, and we came back. We scored 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, but that was the game that kind of gave our kids, like we were talking about that Lincolnton, and Shelby getting over that fear factor. That was one of the big steps for our program. And this isn't new territory for Lincolnton, of course, but like that was one of the big steps for our program is being able to go to a place like Richmond, overcome a deficit, especially in the fourth quarter. Like, again, that psyche, it means so much in high school football. And that's one thing I wish like a lot of coaches knew and understood. And that was one thing I learned early on. Like I got a guy on the sidelines with me, Mark Sanders, who's he's our girls basketball coach. He's been a part of every Butler football game that's ever happened. But he's always the first one to say, like, hey, Hales, they arguing over on the other sideline. So it's like, oh, we got to go fast now. Like, it's time to hurry up and speed things up and put pressure on. But like, again, because that stuff means a huge amount. Like when you see another team arguing or players argue with each other, and now I can start going after these guys that just make it worse. Like, heck yeah, man, that's psyche in high school football. It's if you can manage the psychology part of it, you can win a heck of a lot of football games.
Last statement. 2 years ago, I was at Shelby in the playoffs when Lincolnton came to play them. Now, that game went 41-21. I don't think this game's going to be quite like that. But I learned, I just to reiterate that history, I learned so much about previous games played with former players that were standing around there from Shelby. So you're going to enjoy it. All right.
So let's go to the 4A game West, Maiden at Brevard. This is going to be the old 70s. So the land of the lost. You're going to be in stack territory over in Transylvania County.
Chaka don't like fire.
Chaka don't. So, I forgot about that.
Maiden at Brevard. I think this is going to be Brevard's game to lose. They've been just probably the most steady 4A team in the whole state. I'm going to take Brevard. I think it might be a relatively close game, but I'm going to say by about 7 or so.
I'm going to jump on that bus with you.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in agreement as well. I mean, again, you're looking at 13-0. That's a special season. Like, who you are as a team. You're able to execute your stuff and stop the other team from executing their stuff. I think you go Brevard in this one.
All right, let's go to the 6A. We'll start with the East. Middle Creek at Jacksonville. Should be a pretty interesting game. Middle Creek has played I'm not going to say a tough schedule. The games that they've lost to, they've been against really stellar competition. Jacksonville, I mean, they had to play the pretty big names out in the eastern part of I want to say the Central East, or I don't know, how'd you say Central East, whatever you want to call it. Area, the Onslow, Pitt County, Craven County teams. The game, this game's kind of gone back and forth. I'm going to probably go with Middle Creek in this one. Just seems like Middle Creek is they've really caught on fire during the playoffs. I'm going a little bit on a limb here, but I'm going to take Middle Creek.
Jim, I'm on the opposite side of this one with you.
Yeah. I imagine so.
I don't think you're crazy making that pick, but I do. Personally, I would view it as an upset. Maybe not a major upset, but an upset.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to be like Sam on Coach First Coach. I'm going to defer on this one. I don't know enough about these guys.
All right, the 6A West. This is going to be one of those Jim Cantori games, as Coach Hells likes to say.
Yeah, man.
That Northern Guilford team right now is just playing on fire. And I'm going to take Northern Guilford. It's just a hunch on that. Everything else should tell me to pick Watauga, but I'm going to take Northern Guilford.
Well, you'll see that was my pick in our observer pick. So.
Oh, you took Northern Guilford, Dale.
I did.
Well, here's the things I'm looking at because I just pulled up the forecast for Friday night. Cold with periods of ice changing to rain. Storm total snowfall 1 to 3 inches. Watch for slippery spots. Jim Cantori, I think, is going to at least get to the state championship game this year. Like, that's I don't see Northern Guilford going in there getting a win like this Watauga does. And again, like playing in Northeast Ohio where I did, and growing up in Northeastern Pennsylvania, like, and I know I'm sure it gets cold up in Northern Guilford, but like it ain't like this. Like there's different levels to cold. There's different levels to all that. And I'm not just, and I hate that it sounds like I'm just talking like it's weather's the only thing that matters. Like Watauga's undefeated, and I know Northern, they've only got one loss, but like, again, they're a really good football team. They're really good at what they do. They're unique in the way that they do things, not just offensively, but in the kicking game and defensively. And, they try to take advantage of stuff. And I mean, everybody does, but like, some unbalanced stuff and some option and some stuff that's just really, really hard to prepare for. So like when you're having to try to like keep all these assignments in mind that you're having to, work against with Watauga, and it's also what I say, 1 to 3 inches of snow and ice. Like, yeah, man, good luck. Good luck up there, Northern.
So 2 things. One, depending on when that weather starts getting bad, I mean, the potential could exist. They don't play it Friday night. It's not going to necessarily be, it may not.
I mean, I'm sure it's probably bad now.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
I'm sure it's cold now.
I went up there same time of year with Pete Gilchrist, West Charlotte team, and I can tell you it was miserable.
Yeah, man.
Now
it's
the
tough
other
to play
thing,
in that stuff.
It is, and they had very similar. They didn't have the snow, but we had some of the most bitter cold and wind, and all those other things that I've seen, that I've experienced in all my years of going to football games. The other thing, and I'm going to admit it, I let a little bias go in on my pick, and that bias is that I just have not been able to see Watauga do what they need to do in the playoffs. And I'm not talking about this season. I'm talking about historically.
Historically.
So, yeah, so there's a little bias feeding in. And then I saw what Northern Guilford did last week and what they've been doing, and that's where my pick came from. So Jim
Watauga depends on the big play, and that's the one thing that with the weather, I just don't know if they're going to make the same big play, especially against Northern Guilford. It's going to be an interesting game. Let's go ahead and look at who picked what. The observer picks. We can go to that slide here. Here we go. Well, I see that me and No Limit are the only one that took Weddington. Look at you, straight across. Everybody's Shelby.
We're in the graphic. Is that what they say? Crested Hickory. Yeah. That's even Steven right there, right?
3-3. Yeah, that's 3-3. That's pretty split up there.
Clean sweep for Murphy too.
Everybody took Brevard and everybody took Murphy. Starmount was a tempting pick, to be honest with you. I was tempted in picking Starmount, but I don't know. I just think that's a Murphy thing. And Maiden is a tempting pick too, to be quite honest with you. I think though it's Brevard's, like Jim said, Brevard's game to lose.
I see in the Maiden Brevard game, somebody picked Murphy. You see that, Chris? I imagine it meant to be. Imagine that meant to be Maiden, but anyway.
Maybe. We gonna have to ask the man who put that into the graphics. Did he put something wrong in there? So the only games we were consistent on was the Shelby Lincolnton game. Every other game has Murphy. All the other games have multiple picks and almost Brevard. Yeah, we'll say that's Maiden. So there were 2 that picked Maiden. Hey, No Limit. I don't know if
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's typically what you're going to see this time of year. Like you're going to have a couple of teams that are just going to steamroll through the playoffs that are just head and shoulders better than everybody else in their division that particular year, and then you're just going to see parity across the board. So and I think when you look at that, that's pretty much what you see. Like I said, a little surprised with the Shelby Lincoln one that was a clean sweep across the board. But no, like I said, sometimes schools, teams, you just have a special year where you just have that group of kids and that leadership where everything clicks for you, and it's just what you do. You just go out and you win every game that you play. So yeah, it's I'm having a great time watching it.
Yeah, so I didn't think that as close a game as that would be, that everybody would pick Shelby. You would think one person, No Limit at least, would have picked Lincolnton. But
one thing I was going to mention in the West regionals, all 6 of them that we have here also on the picks of the week. I think 5A, 6A, and 7A might be for the state championship. I think everyone's Weddington, Grimsley, in the West, Crest and Hickory for 5A, and Northern Guilford and Watauga for 6A. I just don't see the 5A, 6A, 7A teams from the East competing with these other teams.
Now, when you say that, Jim, and I'm sorry I missed this part, how many of those that you think are this week is the state championship? How many of those games are in the West versus how many of those games are in the East?
I'll see 3 of them are for the state championship, and all 3 of them are in the West. Hickory, Crest, Weddington, Grimsley, and Northern Guilford, Watauga.
It's almost like back in I remember several of those kind of games with Independence when they were going through their run. That 2003 game that Richmond and Indy played, that was without question the best game because I was at the state championship the next week, and Richmond would have won the state championship had they made it. You hate to see that happen, that your best game you see ends up being the regional, not the state championship.
But I mean, we've seen it with Super Bowls where the conference championship games have been better, or some of the Final Four, the Saturday games have been better than the Monday night games. I look back to our 2012 state championship and the absolute bloodbath, that we played with East Forsyth down at Memorial Stadium. This was as bloody knuckles as 2000s football gets. I mean, it was a 25-15 game. It was the closest game we had all year. And I want to say it was the quarterfinal game. But it was that was the state championship game that year. And
it was.
That's the one and a half. He went to get a drink and he got up. It was, 21-0 or whatever it was. But, I mean, at least you're getting to see the best teams in this case play each other on the field, get to settle it on the field, where we get this college playoff mess that's going on and you're still trying to pick who the best teams are and all of that stuff, and we want to squabble and nitpick about the playoff process and this and that. But again, look at the graphic, you're getting the cream of the crop is playing each other. So whatever we feel about it, 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago, the end result is the end result. You're getting the best teams are going to end up playing each other.
The reason, Coach Hales, that the mess exists in college and we don't see it here is here you have to qualify through your winning, and you have to get all the way there. Yeah, so you have to win games. Whereas in the college football playoffs, it's a subjective measure that gets you in or out.
I don't disagree with that.
We need objective. We need a true play. We need to shorten the college football season and put in a real playoff system.
Oh, there's a lot of meat on that bone, Dale. There's a lot we need to do to fix college football right now. And I think the calendar would be the number one thing. The calendar's so stupid right now. Right. But anyway, that's probably a conversation for another show.
Well, I was going to say, I want to have it where if you're in a conference, you get to play every team in the conference that season. And it drives me crazy seeing these, 15, 16, 18 team conferences. I know it's the thing in the future, I guess.
No, Jim, I hate that. Of course, I grew up with the traditional ACC, what I consider to be a traditional. When Georgia Tech coming in was like, oh my gosh, should we bring in this non-traditional? And I remember the argument was said, well, at least they do touch the Atlantic coast, right? In Florida State coming in. And
now Dale, when you were growing up and Georgia Tech came in, was John Heisman actually coaching them then? Or was this like just after he retired?
Just after he's retired.
Yeah, just after.
Gosh, I was 9 years old when that happened. I remember that quite well.
So I'm on your side with that, Jim.
If I had to do with the ACC, people might laugh when I say this, but I'd have Georgia Tech. I'd have South Carolina and Clemson in there. I'd have North Carolina, NC State, Duke, and Wake. I like Virginia and Virginia Tech, and also like Maryland back in there. Yeah,
I'd like the traditional ACC. I'd like the original ACC. South Carolina would have stayed in if it weren't for the fact that they would end the regular season ranked number 2 in the nation, but they couldn't win the Atlantic Coast Conference tournament and go to the playoffs. They weren't allowed to go to the playoffs. Yeah, they'd lose to NC State, and
they were up by 11. They were up by 11, and then next thing you know, they allowed NC State or South Carolina's up by 11, and State scored 4 points right before the half, and then after that was NC State looked out, but Bobby Crimmins had a ball stolen from him and cost him the game.
Nice.
And let me tell you something. You heard about four corners? Jim, tell them what State State would just stand there. There wasn't no four corner stuff. They just stand there with the ball.
And Bill Curry just stand there. Bill Curry called the 1968 game between Duke and State. The final score, I think, was like 12-10. He said it was about as exciting as artificial insemination. And he said that on the news.
That was probably more exciting. They would just stand there. They wouldn't pass it. They wouldn't do anything. Just stand there, clock ticking down. That's so I'm kind of a fan of the shot clock because of things like that.
Oh, heck yeah. Heck yeah. Well, and I think, and again, probably conversation for another show. I've watched more baseball in the last 2 years because of the pitch clock.
Yeah,
because the game actually moves along. Like stuff happens. Like it's not we're throwing to first base 25 times and on and on. Yeah. Like, and again, I guess I'm Gen X all the way, and I'm gonna wear that badge. But like I got that little millennium in them where I've only got so much attention that I could pay too. So like,
what we're talking about again? What we're talking about?
Right. That's why I can't stay in the same formation on offense very long because I can't look at the same thing.
Well, is there anything else we need to do, or you want to go straight to your final thoughts with Jack Handy?
I don't. Unless Coach Helson's got something he wants to cover.
I'm good, man. I'm happy.
All right.
Yeah. So my final thoughts, and Langston, when you watch this, you see this. I said I wanted to make a proposal. So. Something I'm wanting to do, my final thoughts for the past couple of days, my thoughts have been that I want to find a way to bring some of this to other athletes other than just football players. So I'm going to be talking with some people about what I might be able to do for this spring with rugby, lacrosse. Women's flag football is what brought this to my attention. I've come across a number of women's flag football players. There's one at Huff. She does the ball stuff, and she also is, I think, a center or power forward on the basketball team. Uh, so I'm going to be looking into what we might be able to do to maybe hopefully have a weekly show that we talk about some of those other sports. I'm going to talk to some coaches, and for this to even have a chance of working, anybody watching this, I would need you to. You may not be involved in lacrosse, as an example, but you may know parents that are involved in lacrosse or people that are involved in lacrosse. There's going to have to be some people that help um, do something like what I'd like to try to cover. So I'll need help from people who have not been involved with talking preps in any manner. So really that's my final thoughts are there are other athletes that deserve or other sports that deserve some talk. I know kids love this because they tell me every time I'm at a game, they tell me how much they enjoy hearing their team talked about, even the good teams. So that's my final thought.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Dale. There's plenty of ways you can get up with us the next during the week. I know we're going to be. Here we go. There's the lineup. That Wednesday night talking preps OT. We'll see about that. We're going to do what's called an audible. There's going to be state championship games going on. We might do something maybe post state championship game to wrap everything up. But just tune in. Just keep on tuning in here. We'll definitely be on the air on Friday night. We'll maybe finalize things up. But from Jim West, Dale Ross, and Coach Brian Hells, thank you so much for joining on. Catch you next time.